Donald Trump seems to be also very close to getting charged out of the Georgia investigation into his attempts to pressure election officials and all these different wild things to overturn the 2020 election results in the state of Georgia, a part of his attempt to do so nationally. And some recent actions by District Attorney of Fulton County, Fani Willis, indicate that charges are coming very close for Trump, likely this summer. Take a look at this from CNN, and then we'll discuss.
The Georgia prosecutor leading an investigation into former President Trump and his allies is now signaling a new timeline, possible timetable for charges. In a letter obtained by CNN, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis announced remote work days for most of her staff during the first 3 weeks of August. She asked judges to refrain from in-person hearings for parts of that month as well. This might suggest that Willis expects the grand jury to unseal indictments during that time period.
And then quickly from the New York Times, also reporting on this before we dive into it, Josiah, if you could get that thrown up real quick. Georgia prosecutor signals August timetable for charges in Trump inquiry. The Georgia prosecutor leading an investigation into former President Donald J. Trump and his allies has taken the unusual step of announcing remote workdays for most of her staff during the first 3 weeks of August, asking judges in a downtown Atlanta courthouse not to schedule trials for part of that time as she prepares to bring charges in the inquiry. And one part that we talked about on the show in the past, I don't think you and me, but I did, Josiah, and you can take that down, is I think even more significant, the fact that she sent a letter to, or communicated in some fashion, I think it was a letter to law enforcement agencies, asking them to be prepared, have enhanced security in that same time period. And why would you need enhanced security unless you're charging someone like Trump?
Yeah, no, I mean, at this point, especially after January 6th and everything else, it's probably very prudent to have serious security concerns. She's certainly signaling, and has been for some time, that she is leaning towards indictment. It's entirely possible that it may not happen, but all the cues over the past several months have indicated as such. This is one of the big ones, much more so than the 34 Alvin Bragg indictments. This is up there with Special Prosecutor Jack Smith's investigation into Trump's involvement with January 6th and the classified documents, and those two cases. And as a matter of fact, even though I think January 6th takes precedent in terms of how high profile it is and its most overt, vicious attempt to overthrow democracy, I think this is the Fulton County case is, I think you'd easily make an argument that it's more important than the classified documents case. So that's pretty severe in terms of what this could potentially mean for Trump if it goes the wrong way for him, and for the country if it goes in a way that's to Trump's favor.
Yeah, one of the things I've repeated multiple times on the show is while 100% any of Trump's violations of the law he needs to be held accountable for, absolutely, law and order, as Republicans used to say, but you're going to, of course, compare the cases when someone is being investigated for all these different things like Trump is. And so when doing that comparison, it is absolutely accurate to say some are more important in both the accountability that's necessary and the impact that accountability will have moving forward. So this case and the federal case, also investigating the attempts to overturn the election, so important, top of the list, most important to hold Trump accountable for and for, in this moment, us to see justice. But also, whenever this is being looked back upon as history, for justice to have been present. Because as long as this MAGA ideology or future ideology that's anti-democratic like this one, as long as something like that exists, we could see something like Trump's attempts to install himself president for 4 more years, despite the fact that he lost to Biden, happen again. Now, that will be less likely if whoever has that idea, whoever has that ambition in the future, sees historically what happened to Trump whenever he tried that. He was held accountable. And that's why it's so crucial that while, yes, if it can be proven that Trump broke the law when it comes to the Stormy Daniels stuff, accountability, yes, the documents, accountability, all of that, but the democracy piece of it, the accountability for his attempts to overturn a lawful, free, and fair election. That is so crucial.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, because as a reminder, this particular case out of Fulton County is in reference to the 2020 phone call that Donald Trump made as he was the sitting president to Georgia election officials. I think it was Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, and I think maybe even Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, where he's like, guys, all I need is just 11,780 votes. I mean, come on, just find me the votes. You know what I'm saying? It's one more than what we need. A very naked, transparent attempt to, hey, guys, just manufacture, create, locate the one more vote than what Joe Biden has in order for me to win Georgia. That's a very transparent attempt to overturn the results of a free and fair election. That and January 6th are paramount, much more important than, again, the Alvin Bragg indictments. So again, if he's guilty, as you say, he should be held accountable. But we need to be focusing on what happens here in Fulton County and what happens with Jack Smith. I'll also say, because again, unfortunately, the American public, and I would argue probably even the global public at this point, it's probably not exclusive to just the United States. We have very short-term memories in terms of politics. And so things that horrify us in the moment, you give us enough time and enough day-to-day stresses and commitments and complications, some of it's understandable. We tend to forget the importance of other things. So a lot of people downplay, who once criticized Donald Trump over January 6th and the Georgia phone call, are now trying to sweep it under. That's no big deal. It didn't work. He's being investigated, blah, blah, blah. What Donald Trump did was shatter the single most important civic tradition that we had in this country. I'll repeat that again. The single most important civic tradition in this country, the peaceful transfer of power. That was established by President Washington before he was president. At the end of the Revolutionary War, George Washington was the supreme commander of the only military force in the colonies. He could have easily declared himself George I after overthrowing George III. And most of his officers revered him and worshiped him. But instead, he embodied the principle of Cincinnatus and gave absolute power back to the civilian Continental Congress. That was unheard of. That impressed Napoleon. It impressed King George. It impressed everybody because it's not how people work. Then he did it again at the end of his second term. There was no constitutional amendment which mandated that President Washington retire after 2 terms. And then all through the ages, from President Adams all the way to President Obama, that tradition, no matter if you were Federalist, Anti-Federalist, Whig, whatever non-Whigs were at the time, I can't remember what the party was, Democrat or Republican, that is exactly what they did until Donald Trump. The peaceful transfer of executive power is the single most important civic tradition ever. And I know some people say, well, I mean, even Democrats have questioned elections. No, not like this. They exercised certain legal prerogatives, which they had the right to do, but Hillary Clinton, Al Gore, none of them tried to legislate or litigate their way into a second term. None of them encouraged a coup, nothing like that. Orders of magnitude apart. It is vital that Donald Trump not only fail in his attempt to overthrow the United States, that he be punished ruthlessly for it by the justice system. That's why this matters. It's not enough to say, well, he failed, let's just move on. No. There's no limiting principle there. You not only have to cause him to fail, you have to punish him severely for it. So, sorry for that rant. I just feel very strongly about it. And that's why we need to follow this Fulton County case and what's coming out of Jack Smith's office.
Thank you so much for watching this video. For the outro, I want to quickly plug Josiah's channel. Hit them with it, Josiah.
All right, folks, you can find me at youtube.com/@ponderingpolitics, one word. If you like progressive politics, if you like the Republican Party being called out, and if you like collaborations with Luke Beasley, hit me up there.